Hi, everyone. I'm Donna Anderson, author of lovefraud.com and host of the True Love Fraud Stories podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Tracy Malone, founder of narcissistabusesupport.com. She is also author of the book Divorcing Your Narcissist. Tracy coaches people who are in that situation trying to divorce a narcissist, antisocial, or psychopath. Issues around divorcing a disordered spouse came up in the last episode of True Love Fraud Stories, which was called We Are Leaving Right Now. After 18 years of marriage and 5 kids, the woman who told her story finally left her pathological husband. He then engaged in all the typical divorce games that narcissists play. Tracy explains those games and what to do about them, and her insights are terrific. Here's our conversation. You specialize in coaching people who are divorcing narcissistic spouses, and most of us working with survivors started doing it because it happened to us. So, what was your experience?
Well, I did not know what a narcissist was, but in 2012, I had what the judge called the most tortured divorce in our town's history. And no one ever said the word. No one ever said, why do we have 7 trials when everything was 50,000 in the bank, split it, go home. There was nothing to fight over. But we had 7 trials, and in the end, I ended up writing a book about it. But I didn't learn about narcissists then. I learned after the divorce was over and I had dated this guy for 2 years and found out he was cheating and the whole thing and kept coming over, which I didn't know what, just coming back over and hoovering and going, but let me explain why I slept with you and the other girl at Christmas dinner. Eventually, after about 3 or 4 months, I was at a forgiveness sermon at church, decided to go forgive him on the way home. He called the police and had me put in jail. And when I got out, someone said, he's gaslighting you, look it up. And that led to my divorce, my marriage, my in-laws, my family, and my whole life imploded. But it was the worst day of my life. It was also the best day because I got all this healing. I would have never known how codependent I was and all of the other factors I had to heal.
Wow. Okay, so after that experience, you call yourself and the people that you help Thriver. So, what do you mean by that?
Well, I was trying to play with a surviving to thriving kind of concept, and I coined this in my book, but it's basically survivor is someone who's been through hell and back. They go from hopelessness to hopeful, and they turn from fearless to, to from fear to fearless, and they give back to others. Just like you and me, who used our experience, we go and we help others, and that's what a survivor does.
Now that you do a lot of divorce coaching for people who are trying to separate themselves from this type of individual, what would you say are the top 2 or 3 concepts that people divorcing narcissists or sociopaths, psychopaths, what things do they really need to understand?
Well, I would say that the most important thing is that they are not the person you thought they were. You are going to find out things that you could have never imagined because the black and white thinking that they have gets deployed during divorce. Even if it was their idea, they just make you into the evil, make you into the bad one, make themselves into the victim of you, right? So they're going to rewrite history. They're going to rewrite your entire relationship. And there's going to be all of these painful lies. You have to be prepared because that's what I think most people get deer in the headlights. Well, that never happened. How could they say that? They know me better than anyone. And you're running in a cycle that they want you to be running in by throwing all this stuff out there. A, to make you look like the crazy one. B, to make themselves the victim of you. But all of these lies and false allegations will have no bearing on the divorce unless you've got children. And you have to know what lies to defend, right? Most people are just right. Oh my God, I think my $100,000 divorce was because I fought every lie. I didn't steal money, a trial. I didn't do this, a trial, right? All of those things were not gonna matter. The people who believed his lies, okay, bye. They're gone. They're not in my life anymore. The people that know me know those were fake. And so you have to come to a place where you know what happened and you know, not let them make you crazy because it or angry. Because if they push you to anger, they will be recording it and they'll pop it on and show the children and show the court how angry you are, even though they pushed you to it.
When people realize that they must divorce their disordered spouse, what should they not do?
Well, they should never call them a narcissist or a sociopath. That's like out of the box. It's almost like a little given, right? But if they decide that they want a divorce, what are your goals? And then everything should be aligning to them. So if your kids are your biggest goal or keeping the house is your biggest goal, know that you might have to give something back. So it's knowing your goals. If you don't know your goals, you're going to be flip-flopping all over the place. But you also have to know your rights. And a lot of people don't ever dig into that. They just go, oh my God, deer in the headlights, and they don't know what their rights are. And the narcissist is going to gaslight you. I just said they are going to lie about it. They're going to tell you you have no rights to the children. You don't get any money. You were the stay-at-home mom. This is all mine, right? So if you don't know your rights, that is going to put you in fight and flight, and you're going to be frozen and scared to death. So by knowing your rights, you're going, good try, but I am entitled to alimony, and I am entitled to the children, and I am entitled to half of everything else, right? So it's knowing your rights. If you don't understand those, then you'll be in trouble because they will manipulate you, right? Make sure that you don't I would say just assume that they'll play fair. We always give them the second doubt and go, well, they won't hurt me and that sort of thing, right? But it happens all the time. And so if you understand that and make sure that they can't track you, make sure that, any kind of tracking things, make sure you change your computer passwords and things like that, because they will hack into you. So.
Okay. So, what do you think the first step should be as someone starts to disengage from this situation?
Well, if the conversation has gone towards divorce and they're just being, ghosting you and not talking in the house and things are getting heated up, but you've had that conversation and then you didn't act on it, what the narcissist does is begin to get their ducks in a row. And what that means is they're hiding money. They are, building the case against you. They are, getting their ducks in a row, whatever that means. And many times, and even in mine, they quit their jobs and go, oh, I don't have a job, then I don't have to pay them any money, right? So, my ex did that as well. It didn't stop him from having to give me my alimony, but it's a tactic. I would say 70% of them do that, right? And then I would say if you've got kids, right from the get-go, start to document bad parenting behaviors because they're going to tell the court lies, and you have to have some kind of evidence and documentation of what's really going on. If you can put in an order as soon as you file for temporary support. I have a client that's 3 years into her divorce and she still doesn't have temporary support. And she's got two handicapped children and she's like, what am I supposed to do? And she's been through three lawyers. Oh, we'll get you temporary support. Oh, we'll get you temporary support. That has to be first because it takes time. Everyone goes, it's temporary. It could still take 9 months to get on a docket to get temporary support. So start that right at the beginning. And if they are out of the house, change all of the utilities. I've had people that, they didn't put the heat or what electric into their names, and they came home and the partner had turned it off and they have no heat. So if you can just prepare yourself to think, what could they do? Change your Wi-Fi passwords. I've had them sitting in the driveway at night, tapping into your computer and getting all your legal documents that you're gathering for the judge in the courts, right? So protect yourself at all costs.
In the podcast that sparked our conversation, I tell the story of a woman named Janet who is filed for divorce from her disordered husband called Anthony. And he was required to turn in documents like his financial records, which he never did. So, how common is this, and what can survivors do about it?
I would say 80% of divorce cases do not give in their discovery. I personally, my husband, in those 7 trials, never handed in paperwork. He was in contempt for 6 of them, right? And yet nothing came in. Of course, I was blamed. I must have blocked him, even though he could have copied the 5,000 papers I gave him. But they do it all the time. And then what that does is it slows down the court process. You can't go to, step 2 unless the paperwork is in there. You can't go to mediation. They will try to get you into mediation, but you don't even know what you have without that paperwork. So don't ever go to mediation unless you've got everything in front of you. But this is what they do. They will stonewall, they will not give the stuff. So what you can do if now that I know, and I don't know why my expensive lawyer never said this, we could have subpoenaed his records. Nobody told me that in all of those trials. And we're just going, Judge, he still didn't give them to you. It was just a waste of my money and time. If he didn't get it, then I'm not going back to court. It should have been in a place and we could have subpoenaed them. And what that means is, like, let's pretend you think they have an account at Citibank. It goes right to Citibank. Your lawyer fills it out, the judge approves it, and Citibank is required to give them over. So we cut out the middleman of your soon-to-be ex, and we get the papers on ourselves. The same thing works with tax returns. Mine would not share my tax returns with me, and it was his accountant. And his accountant was like, nope, not doing it. And we'd go back to court and go, his accountant won't give me the paper, judge. So we ended up going to the IRS directly. So you can subpoena records, you can subpoena work pay stubs and W-2s and all of that stuff. You can get all of that without having to rely on the narcissist or sociopath because they're not going to do it. So that's the best advice.
Yeah, I did that in my case because my ex-husband also didn't supply any paperwork. I mean, the form came back and it was blank. There's like nothing on it. So we did. And then I spent a lot of time. We subpoenaed his bank records. Then I spent a lot of time studying them. And lo and behold, I find these things connected to other bank accounts that I knew nothing about. So, you get those records, you have to look at them and, see where he's been funneling the money or she's been funneling the money or what's been going on. It's very instructive to see what they've been doing with the money.
I want to just mention on that, international accounts. I have a lot of people that, my own husband, I had statements for 5 years of a Swiss bank account with $5 million in it. And we brought it in and go, look, he's got plenty of money. He's got this account. And him and his mother and father, mommy and daddy said, nope, we closed that. And the judge went, oh, it's Switzerland. Can't do anything about it. Let's just forget that. So chasing ghosts with international money, you've got to talk to your lawyer, your state, your laws, but often it doesn't end well. So that's why narcissists, when they're getting their ducks in a row, they're getting it offshore because it's really hard to find or prove.
So, also in the podcast that we did, Janet and Anthony had 5 children together, but when they split, only 2 were minors, and Anthony never tried to see them. He also convinced the judge that he was broke and paid $100 in child support per month. But anyway, how often do you see disordered spouses abandoning the children?
A lot. It's like I'm not going to say a percentage, but there's a fair amount that will. Those that want the children don't really want the children. They just don't want to pay you any child support. They also make horrible parents, right? They make the children become slaves and all of these other things. It's really common that they do this. And again, what she had to experience is her putting the kids back together because now they've got that abandonment wound and they will always need to have some kind of help for feeling that way. But it's really common, unfortunately. And again, they're either, destroying them in one way or another. So I would rather don't come back. My ex-husband, I have never seen him again. It wasn't his kid. And boy, that's a much more easy thing to heal from. than the constant co-parenting for 18 years.
It seems to me, I think I agree with you, that having to co-parent is worse than the abandonment. And so you've developed a new program called the Parenting Plan Masterclass. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. So, because I work with people going through divorce as well as co-parenting during and after, I see the problems. I see the people coming back, having to go back to court 5 times, 6 times to get things changed. And they go back there and they just go, oh, that one thing, let's change that. But you just spent $10,000, right? I was like watching what the behaviors were in the narcissist in this case, and then going, do you have this protection? Can I see your parenting plan? And I'd see it and go, this is the worst parenting plan I've ever seen. It has absolutely no protection. So I built this thing and it's got all these lessons. It gives you the roadmap of what you can ask for. And these are your rights. And if you are experiencing like financial, insecurity where they're not paying the bills or they're not agreeing to put the kid in soccer, or I'm not paying for a Boy Scout, it doesn't say I have to. If you're dealing with that kind of, messing around with your kid's life, then you get in a clause to your parenting plan that says, we will split all things, including, extracurriculars, medical, braces, this, clothing. Well, you put in a whole big line of it, and then they can't say, it doesn't say I have to pay for that. So you have to protect yourself. And that's why I put this together. I also have all these clauses so you can see like under like legal custody. That's the biggest thing narcissists fight over. Legal and physical custody. I want that. I want decision making, and they fight for it, right? They don't really want it. Again, it's to control you. But I had a client that was her husband was getting out of jail for beating her in front of the children. And she filed for divorce while he was in jail. And then he gets out and he's like, I want 50-50. And she's like, oh my God, can this be? And she's paying a lawyer all along. And she gets to me and I'm like, well, let's look at the parenting rights for your state. We looked it up. There's a section right there. Boom. It does not guarantee that he will get custody. In fact, it would be very hard and more likely supervised. When she read that, the fear in her heart just melted because her lawyer had not told her that. And so she lived every night going, oh my God, I lose my children, right? But when you know your rights, then you can protect yourself, right? So I have all of those in there as well to just make sure that no matter where you live, you understand. Like Arizona has a 350-page PDF about your rights, including like if your kid is this old, 0 infant to 1 year old, that's another big thing people worry about. Like my kid's only 1 and they've never changed a diaper. They don't know how to put them to sleep. How can I just give them to the other parent, right? So if you know your rights and you could do a step-up plan and go, they're a baby now, but in 3 years we'll do this and then we'll do that. Lawyers don't get creative with this sort of stuff, but you can get it if you know what to ask for.
So what is the program structurally? It includes videos and what else?
Yeah, so every lesson has a video and every lesson has worksheet. Some of the worksheets are 2 pages. It's just like, here's what you could ask for. Check, check, check. Give it to your lawyer, have them do it. And then there's all the clauses. There's things on how to negotiate and ask for more so you land on what you really want, how to set your goals, how to set things like how will we raise our children with rules like, again, minor things, but sometimes they're throwbacks, right? But we sit there and we go, we won't physically abuse our children. Easy. Why don't we put that in? If they are or have ever done that, get that in there because now they're in contempt.
How does this particular masterclass that you've developed help people who are face child custody battles, with a narcissist or a sociopath?
I think knowing what your rights are, if you think about it, most lawyers now are $350 to $500 an hour. They're not teachers. And by the time they get to the parenting plan, which is generally in the end of it, you're done fighting, like they're never agreeing, I'm not going to ask for anything, and you settle for something that is going to set you up for problems for the next 18 years, right? So knowing your rights, knowing that, hey, I want this, We fight about everything. I want a conflict resolution policy. I want this. I need this. If you are fighting over that, legal custody, you can extract decision makings. And really, narcissists are like, I don't really want to play an extracurricular. Okay, you can have it, right? But they still, on paper, have joint legal decision making, except for the areas that you might extract. Most people don't know that. But if you are the one that plans extracurricular or takes the kids to the doctors, you can have final decision making. If we educate people on what their rights are, this is going to help them not make mistakes and end up with a very solid and protective parenting plan.
Well, I know that so many people need this because, I mean, no one goes into this planning. Well, actually, I should take that back because I have heard of sociopaths who go into a marriage planning the divorce, so, but anyone with children, of course, wants what's best for them, let me correct myself again. The healthy parent wants what's best for the children, whereas the disordered parent may not. But anyway, so what message would you like to share to help people stay strong as they're divorcing a narcissist, sociopath, or psychopath?
I want to just tell them that it's going to end. It may feel endless. And I've got people with 5 to 8 year divorces. Don't worry, those are very high end, lots of, just taking things up to an appellate court. Every decision, that's the really long ones, right? But it will end. It may feel like it. And again, that woman that has not gotten her temporary orders in 3 years, she feels hopeless. She feels helpless, right? But it will end. And that's where you'll start to do the work. You will be okay, right? And that's what people are just like, how will I be? I'm going to lose everything. I'm not going to have enough to survive. Well, I didn't have enough to survive, and I've survived the last 12 years, and I will figure out the rest of my life, right? We have to realize that we will reinvent ourselves and we will find ourselves in a different way, like a survivor that has been through hell and back, right? And we are going to be the one who has peace in our life, right? Doesn't matter if the narcissist goes on and marries 5 22-year-olds. Doesn't matter what they do. They're gone, and you will start to find peace that you just never thought you had. And you will become a person that will never tolerate abuse again. And that's what's important. Just like my arrest being the worst day, this divorce will be a terrible thing, but it will turn your life around and hopefully live happily ever after without them.
I'm Donna Anderson, and this is True Love Fraud Stories. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Tracy Malone, author of NarcissistAbuseSupport.com. For her contact details, please visit the page about this interview on podcasts.lovefraud.com. You'll also find links to Tracy's comprehensive parenting plan program. True Love Fraud Stories is produced by lovefraud.com. Engineering is by Terry Kelly. To learn how to recognize and recover from everyday sociopaths, visit lovefraud.com. You'll find articles, books, and webinars. You can also book an appointment with me, Donna Anderson, for advice on how to recover from your personal experience with a disordered individual. Book your session today at lovefraud.com/talk to Donna.